Good morning, friends. Hello, hello. How are you this morning? You doing grand? A little Hard Rock Cafe mug up this morning. You doing all right with this warm day? We're supposed to have some record-setting temperatures here in the next couple days, so that's exciting. Got a little bit of we skipped right over spring and leapt right into summer. Went from winter to summer. Going to be one of those years, it seems like. Hope you're doing great in the midst of it all. Good morning, good morning. All right. It has been good morning, friends. Doing all right. Hey, Jane. Good morning to you. Hope you're doing good. Great to hear from you. Hope you and John are well and enjoying this springtime. Good morning, good morning. All right, friends, let's get going this morning. It is the 4th day of June here on this Wednesday at 11:11, and I'm glad you're here and a part of the journey that we might come together for a little digital time together. I want to, this comes from the book of Hebrews. So the book of Hebrews is really, if you're looking at something beautiful in the New Testament, the book of Hebrews is it. It is beautifully written in this kind of exploratory way of describing the nature of what it is, of the incarnation of God coming to us, but its use of language is just lovely. And so, from the 10th chapter of the book of Hebrews, let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. So the day approaching is this day of struggle, is the day of the Lord, as they're talking about essentially the day that things starts breaking down, that they may be built up again, the day of reckoning, the day of making things right. But if things have to be made right, that initially means that they're what? Wrong. So it is this time of trial, this time of difficulty. He says, so let's consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. I love this image, and I love the way this uses this language, this notion of to spur one another on. So research shows that it takes about 8 minutes. It takes about 8 minutes of focused time with somebody, of kind of face-to-face time with someone who is feeling isolated and alone, someone who is overwhelmed, someone who is in despair, someone who's just working through something in crisis. It takes about 8 minutes of focused time with somebody to help them move out of that space, for them to feel reconnected with another human being, and then turned around from their point of despair, their point of difficulty, their point of struggle. Now, if that doesn't sound shocking to me, I want you to really consider it. How many of us cannot spare 8 minutes? How many of us cannot ask for 8 minutes if we need it? And yet we find ourselves in the midst of a life that often we either, if we're struggling, we either feel like a complete imposition to ask for someone else's help, or if someone else is struggling, we feel like we have to take on the whole load of their troubles and their woes and their difficulties. But often, what people simply need is 8 minutes of time. Now, This comes from a guy by the name of Simon Sinek. He does a lot. He's a leadership motivational coach. Does a ton of research into these sorts of things, and he took it as something that he actually implemented into his life with some of his friends and his family, because he had this moment where he had a friend that he had been that they communicate as they regularly do, and they texting back and forth, and so he went and hadn't heard from her a couple of weeks, so he went and checked on her, and I said, hey, how you doing? He says, oh, it's been a really rough week. And he was a little stunned and actually a little hurt. He's like, well, why didn't you call me if it was such a hard week? And after she explained some really difficult things that had happened, and she said, well, I did. And he looked at his phone, and there were no calls. There was nothing there. She said, look, there are no calls. He says, yeah, but look in your text. And so in the text were, hey, are you busy? Hey, what's going on? Hey, the same level of text threads that had always that was always common between them back and forth. And he said, how was I supposed to know that was a cry for help? That was something that when you needed a little more attention, or when you had a need, how was I to know? And so he took that, and he said, and with his friend there, he said, if one of us are struggling, let's just send each other a text. Hey, do you have 8 minutes? Hey, do you have 8 minutes? Rather than, and that would be kind of a code word. And he actually went out and set this up with the text thread that he had with his family, and he kind of told them the story, and he said, I want you to know that if you ask for 8 minutes, I will give you I'll walk out of a meeting. And because who of us can't spare 8 minutes? That actually what it takes to care for one another, what it takes to spur one another on toward love and good deeds is way less of a threshold than we imagine is. Now, we're not going to solve people's problems in 8 minutes, but if you're stuck in the mud, you can get people out of it. If they're stuck staring into a dark hole, if they're stuck, we can often find that often it's simply the directed attention for 8 minutes to get them out of that. I saw this again and again and again in my chaplaincy in Iraq. I did a lot of travel in Iraq. I was on helicopters all the time. I was in convoys. I was on planes. I was going to our different hospitals and to our different aid stations, and because that I wanted to check on my chaplains that were out there in the field doing things, but also find out kind of what the ground truth was and where we were and how to provide ministry better and care for the soldiers that were both in our command and that came to us for care. And so but it inevitably failed as I'm walking around, as I'm in the, as they used to call, in the transportation pipeline, as I was in the transportation pipeline headed from one place to another. There was inevitably a lot of waiting, or there's a lot of moments, or there's sharing a tent with somebody, and it happened again and again and again. Somebody would get a Dear John letter about their wife just couldn't take it anymore, and they were leaving, and that soldier would be there with me. There'd be I can remember a soldier that was headed towards the flight line to get on a helicopter to do more battlefield circulation because they had a particular specialty that only they could do, and they'd been just traveling again and again, and they were worn down to a nub, and they'd been in not just in hostile places, but just barely getting a whole lot of sleep, and yet the commander was asking them to go back out again, and happened to catch them just as they're heading to the flight line, and talked with them for probably about 8 minutes. Or a soldier that got blown up, and his friends had gotten wounded, and he was shaken and rattled, and as I came into the aid station, there he was, and his squad leader kind of motioned me over, and I just sat and talked with him for probably about 8 minutes. You know how many problems I solved? Absolutely none. You know how many problems Simon Sinek solved with his friend? Absolutely none in those 8 minutes. But what we did do is what I think is that line from the Hebrews that we encountered. Let us consider how we may spur one another toward love and good deeds. People who are terrified in fear, people who are brokenhearted in despair, people who are overwhelmed and with the tasks of and the physical requirements of what they were being asked to, that that in those places that they were stuck, that they were lost, that they were challenged, to simply bear witness to them, to simply connect with them, to simply hear their stories of what they've been through, and it was enough. Not that I was able to redirect them or give them any great wisdom, but it was simply enough for them to begin to spur one another toward love and good deeds. They're be able to have to stir them back into agency in their own lives towards goodness and towards good deeds. That word spur, just and it is in Bible. It really is just like a horse that we talk about. We think about a rider on a horse. If a rider, if they want to get the horse to move, it's not about inflicting pain, but it is about getting their attention and redirecting them, and so that they know, oh, it's time to go. And so too is the goodness inside of us, that if we just spur it, if we just witness to it, if we just say, man, that does sound like a hard week. Man, that is a terrible thing that happened to your friend. Man, that is a difficult, you are being asked a lot of what's coming up. And for people to be able to appreciate their own struggle, appreciate their own point, and begin to move again in their own life, that alone, well, takes about 8 minutes. So do we have 8 minutes? Do we have 8 minutes for each other? Can we, as the writer of Hebrews instructs us, can we spur one another towards love and good deeds in 8 minutes? Because this is the thing, as he goes on to say, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing. I have seen this again and again and again. People will faithfully attend church, or people will faithfully be connected to their friend group, or people will faithfully be connected to their families and check in with them. People will faithfully be a good friend or be a part of a community right up to the moment that things begin to struggle. And then they'll circle the wagons and they'll stop attending. They'll cut themselves off right at the moment when they need the trust that they've built the most. That the very things that they've invested in other people, the very things that they've done to care for the world and to care for others, they will not receive themselves, and even if they haven't necessarily given great things to the community, they will still hold themselves up. And I get it. We all need to have that protective instinct. You know, when we all huddle up when we feel attacked, or we feel hurt, or we feel vulnerable. Like that is our natural reaction to vulnerability. But it doesn't serve us. Will we keep meeting? Will we keep offering each other 8 minutes? Will we keep just spur each other? Just get a little kick. Let's go toward love and good deeds. Now, this is not about, will we spur one? We can hear this in ministry land and feel like, oh, will we spur somebody? Is this a leadership technique to get somebody to do another thing, to do some great new mission outreach, or some great new study, or get them to? No. That's not what we're talking about. Don't hear what I'm not saying. Toward love and good deeds. Towards getting up in the morning and putting your feet on the floor, going eating some Cheerios, and beginning to lean into your day and care for those whom you might encounter, to simply love yourself, love God, love the world, love those who God has given you. This is a very basic thing. This is not about the spurring of great endeavors. This is about the building of lives, and from this or the encouraging of lives from a stuck place, from a lost place, from a dark place, into a beautiful place. And that, it just takes a little bit of movement. Doesn't mean everything is solved. Doesn't mean everything is on its way. But pilgrims are for moving, and pilgrimages are for being walked, and life is for being lived. And friends, I hope in today that you'll consider putting some 8-minute rules in with the people that you love. That perhaps if you see somebody struggling, you'll offer them 8 minutes. Maybe if you're struggling, you'll reach out and ask for 8 minutes. But in all that you do, let us consider how we may spur one another toward love and good deeds, and not give up meeting together. Because it is later than you think, and the day is approaching when real struggle and real hurt and real pain may find us. So let us endeavor to care for one another, to offer each other 8 minutes, and to spur each other toward love and good deeds. Peace and grace to you all, my friends, and we'll pick it up tomorrow with another 11:11.